Hmm? Ah!
This is hard. The sentencing.
For the heretical desecration of the first, third, fourth, and fifth of the great laws, what say you for the vampire Claudia?
Advocate, are you not the horse a mile ahead of the cart?
Madame Justice?
The vampire Madeleine, what is her crime?
Oh, she's just a bastard fledgling. Made without the knowledge or consent of the Coven Master. Which is... now me.
Yet she is oblivious to the crimes committed by her maker.
It is only fair that she be offered the same choice as any vampire.
This is true and fair. In accordance with vampiric law, may she not join the coven and become one with us?
She must join or die. Oh, points for enthusiasm, but it is true and fair.
Hey listeners, welcome to the show. I'm Danny.
And I'm Mark.
I'm Lara.
This is a spoilful podcast about Interview with the Vampire Season 2, Episode 7. I could not prevent it.
In this episode, Louis, Claudia, and Madeleine are put on trial by the Théâtre des Vampires with a mortal audience as the jury. And the no longer deceased Lestat de Liancourt is the star witness.
Ooh. Tonight, we have another guest with us on the podcast, listener Becky. I'm going to butcher that. Fenner?
Yes,
Fenner
that's
Anderson?
perfect.
Anderson is joining us to share her thoughts on the episode, the series at large, as well as her experience being asked to join a focus group about the series. Welcome, Becky.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome.
And this is her first time, so we're excited. So what are your thoughts on the show in general?
I love the show. I love the flow. I love the acting, the settings, the backdrops. And I think my favorite thing about it, and we talked about this in the focus group, was that it's inclusive. There's, they cover ethnic characters. There's representation in the LGBTQ plus community. I just think that's a really cool thing that they do.
Oh, yes. And then, so give us some feedback on this focus group that you got to be part of.
Well, a friend of mine is a part of a focus group community in Nashville, and he was sent a note about, does he have any interest in vampires and supernatural? And he immediately sent it to me, knowing I love all things supernatural and vampire world. So I did an interview. They asked me a lot of questions about Anne Rice, the movie, what supernatural vampire shows that I enjoyed watching and we're currently watching. And I got chosen along with 6 others to participate. We had absolutely no idea what we were going to be seeing. And I really, in the back of my mind, was hoping it would have been a Buffy reunion, but it was not. And so just a few minutes, they had us sitting at our computers or wherever we were going to watch, and they sent us the link to the episodes. And I was super excited to see when Interview with the Vampire popped up. And the next day we did a Zoom call where a moderator asked us questions and listened to all of our notes. We got to see some photos of possible fonts and logos and layouts for the, I guess the like posters or whatever. And it was an amazing experience. I got paid to watch television, so that's like the dream job.
So this was season 1 that you got to see the first episodes of?
Yes, ma'am. This was before anybody knew that this was coming, and we were not allowed to speak about it. We couldn't tell, even friends or anything. We could not talk about it until they decided it. And a lot of what we saw was rough. Green screen was still there. The scene where Louis and Lestat first get together and they're lifted into the air, you could still see the cords. So you kind of had to use your imagination, but I've never seen a show that way, so it was really neat.
That's cool.
Nice.
And did they take some of your feedback that you sent about like the fonts or any of that stuff? Or do you think they factored that in?
They did. What the one major thing that was a big topic of conversation is where to put Anne Rice's name. And they had it in several different places, and everybody agreed it should be at the top. Otherwise, if you don't know Interview with the Vampire, you're not going to know who started it. So, but the color, a lot of it, they did actually listen to some of our feedback on the show itself, which was really it was really exciting to see when it first came out.
Wow,
Nice.
that is such a cool experience.
It really was.
Especially getting paid for that.
Right?
Yeah.
I've been talking for years that my dream job is to be able to watch TV and talk about it. So that's why I'm really excited about this too.
Awesome.
Well, that would be great if you ever got hit up again to be on another focus group.
I know. I told her I am readily available.
And everybody out there that's listening, that's part of those focus groups, please get
Hello,
Becky.
I'm here.
All right, so we're going to go into the general thoughts for this episode. Mark?
Well, to keep it short and sweet, and I generally don't, but I'm going to state flat out, it had all the feels within it between Lestat, Claudia, oh my goodness, and as well as Louis and Armand within it. And my hating of Daniel's constant like poking and prodding to get and then saying, hey, it's not written here, so it's not right. But my attitude was I got the feels throughout the whole film or show. And I just enjoyed each and every aspect of it, especially when Lestat went off key. He didn't go on script for the play. And we don't know if that's true or real because we didn't hear from Lestat's standpoint at this point. We only get it from Louis and Armand and their memories. We got Claudia, and oh my God, her and Madeline on that stage, and how Claudia just takes front and center. And it's very different from what we get from the movie itself as well. I'm pretty sure as the book. If Billy were here, he'd probably know. Lara, you probably know a lot more. But from my understanding, it didn't go that way. And this is kind of a new vehicle for the story itself. And
there was a trial and they did die the way they died in the episode, but it came to that point much differently than they did in the show.
But I got the feels within it, and it does shed a little bit of a tear because you feel empathy for Claudia, Madeline, Armand, as well as Louis while they're on the stand. But the one thing I didn't think I would feel for was Lestat, because when he hiccups at a certain point and then interjects his feelings and everything at a certain point, it just, wow, it shook me. So overall, I loved it. I love Santiago and being the judge and then announcing a certain thing. And it's amazing. And we're left off at a certain point where I just wanted to continue. I wanted to see more. It's kind of like back in the day when you listen to a Howard Stern show and everybody who hated it, they said, well, I wanted to hear what he had to say next. Well, and same thing with the listeners who were fans of Howard Stern. I just wanted to hear what he had to say next. I wanted to see what they had to have come next right away. And we didn't get that. We got left off on a cliffhanger. And I'm sure we're going to get this in the final episode is coming up. So I'm eagerly awaiting. AMC, please keep note. Yeah, we would love to get screeners if possible in the near future of anything that you do with Interview with a Vampire or anything that you would like to give, because we are Walking Dead fans here as well. And also anything, it's amazing. The show, it has done well with its characterizations, its drama, inclusivity when it comes to racial culture, LGBTQ community. And I have to add it too, because I've said it's a toxic relationship too, because it also announces it covers when a toxic relationship is like this with Lestat, Armand, Louis, anybody. It's all around. It's a human thing. So not that they're human, but it does it shows
Human-esque.
it's human-esque, and it's a commentary. It's literally a commentary, and I love what the writers are doing, and I love how they are able to adapt this, and I'm loving what we're presented by the actors, how it's done theatrically on the show. And that's about it.
How many stakes do you give it?
This one I had to give it a 9. Stakes to the heart.
How about you, Laura? What are your thoughts?
I'll start off with my stake rating, and that was 10 out of 10 stakes to my cold, dark, vampiric heart.
Wow.
I absolutely loved it. I thought episode 5 was my favorite episode, but nope, this one is now my favorite episode. It was like just devastating and heartbreaking and beautiful in all the best ways. First, slow claps for Delaney Hales as Claudia. I was a little bit skeptical when she was taking over for Bailey Bass because I just loved Bailey so much in the first season. But I mean, she brought such defiance and fierceness to Claudia. She was just absolutely superb in picking up that character in this second season and just running with it. She gave Claudia agency and some degree, sort of took her out fighting to the last minute, which isn't how it is portrayed in the books or in the film. She was not going to go down without a fight, and I loved her. So pour one out for Claudia and Madeline. Adieu, my lovely ladies. I was very sad to see them go, but I just knew that they weren't going to change that ending, even though I hoped they might. I knew they wouldn't. And definitely, like I said, this was the best episode on TV of the series, and probably that I've seen so far this year on TV. The writing in this show is just so intelligent and poetic, and like I think Sam said in one of her voicemails, they don't dumb down their audience. They figure people should understand adult conversations. It was spellbinding in the best and worst way possible, and the writing, like production, was stellar. I really loved the animations on the projection screen. I swear I've seen that animation before, but I tried Googling it to see who did the animation production for this episode and couldn't find it. But I've seen some YouTube animations that are very similar, so I'm going to have to hunt them down sometime. And it was a hard watch, but I was transfixed by all the performances of every single actor, but especially Sam Reed, Jacob Anderson, and Delaney Hales. They tore up every single scene they were in. It was amazing.
I agree.
Danni?
How are you, Becky?
I have big bold letters in my notes. Intense. I mean, even though we knew most of what was coming, it was still an absolute emotional roller coaster. And I can always say, every episode, I always say, man, the acting is so good here. And I'm still going to say it again. This cast is unbelievable. If they aren't winning awards for casting, then something's wrong. But just like Lara said, Claudia, she's amazing. And I went back and watched season 1 the last couple of days, and she does bring her own uniqueness to the character, but it does it in a way where it still stays true to, what the other actors started. It broke my heart, and it was beautiful, intense and beautiful.
You, Danny?
How many? Oh,
actually, no.
I
Yeah.
get to rate?
Yeah, you get to rate.
I'm with Lara. It's a 10.
Okay.
All right.
You, Danny, what do you have?
Oh my God. Where do I start? This episode was like... Well, let's start with this. I give this a 20 out of 10 stakes to the heart. This is by far my favorite episode.
Okay.
I just, in my mind, Lestat just gave the best performance that he could have given. His performance was just very poetic, and just, I cried several times during Lestat's monologues and his off scripts, and Claudia's singing to her end and just holding on to Madeline just really, really made me feel just a lot of emotions. And I'm ready to dive into this episode because there's a lot to get into. So with that, let's do this. We're going to do, of course, the episode breakdown. And so we start with In Dubai. Daniel inquires about the trial. Louis begins to remember the abduction, and Claudia is thrown into the rat box as Madeline is hypnotized by Santiago. And I did add that Louis pretty much talks about how he hears the rats once they find Claudia, and that was like, oh my god, that is so... I'm like, ooh. And I was like, please don't go for the heart, please don't go for the heart.
I felt his pain when they were abducted, and the whole time he's just shouting her name, and just it showed so much how much he loves her.
Yes.
Yeah. It was definitely heart captivating and grabbing at you because you feel so much for these characters, and you sense and feel the love. And then later on during the episode, we do get that whole Louis Lestat and how she came to be within it. Now, mind you, either it's a verbal kind of recollection, not a written one, of how she was created and why she was created. But the way that Louis actually explains it is interesting. But the way that it showed and how it was filmed literally made me feel like the movie Taken.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yes.
Because you saw it through like Louis' eyes, and he was covered and he was being
Helpless.
taken as well, helpless.
Yeah.
All you could hear is her voice, him screaming out and clinging on to her words as it was happening, and then cloaking him, and him seeing her being thrown into the box. His first thought was those rats are going to eat her alive.
Yep.
Or dead or undead. I don't know. And
How would that work?
yeah, exactly. But you could feel Louis' pain within it and how he described it, and I really enjoyed that. Not to say I enjoyed it, but I felt the pain from Louis with his description of it, and that's what I really enjoyed it. It's how the actors are able to convey it and convey the feeling for how the characters were. And this show is probably by far one of the better ones that are out there that are dramatized based upon something that would be deemed as horror, sci-fi, or a fantasy, and has done it very well. I'm looking forward to what we get more, but these scenes were incredible in how they were able to captivate that on film.
Oh yeah. And just how Louis describes him like trying to like he was biting through the cloth, and he was like trying to like anything to get them.
Yeah, I felt like that rat box got a little underused though, because it was sort of a prop that they kept alluding to all season. And you figured someone was going to get thrown in that rat box. And I think we even predicted that maybe Claudia was going to die in the rat box rather than with the son, like we expected. But they just kind of threw her in there for a few minutes to torture her, which I don't get. I'm like, why are they torturing Claudia so much? Like, Louis is the one that Santiago hates. He's hated Louis since he stepped into the theater. But I understand that Claudia was the one who wrote down all of their history and all of that. But I'm like, it's Louis that Santiago wants to abuse the most, not Claudia. At least in this version of the story.
Yeah, but if you think about it, torturing Claudia would essentially be hurting Louis.
He knew that was how to get. He could hurt him worse than physically hurting him was to hurt her.
Yeah. At least that was my interpretation of that.
That's
All
true.
right.
And I think the very first, the title of the entire episode, I could not prevent it. More BS from Armand.
Oh my gosh.
How that
Yeah, I agree.
$500 ultra powerful vampire could not prevent it and got put in a timeout box is such a load of crap.
A timeout box, and to use his last resort of power to control the sway of the judgment at the very end for Louis, so he can have his lover. After now, Claudia and Madeline have been dismissed. Sorry, spoilers, but we already said it's a spoilerful podcast. Everybody.
Oh, I will be calling out all of Armand's bullshit.
I don't even know what you're going to say, but I second it.
I feel the same way too, Lara.
So then we move into Lestat takes the stage. Louis and
Sebastian
Claudia.
Bach?
Louis and Claudia cannot defend themselves. They'll run away. They're trapped by the coven. Lestat takes the bow of the stage and kind of he goes off stage, and it's just so funny when Santiago kind of is like, our star witness, he's going to swear off on this journal that's written in his blood, and he's going to swear that he's going to tell the truth, you know, and then they're like, he's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm on my way to Australia to join their team. I
think he was talking about the Australian tennis team or something was playing in town, and he was going to drain all of them if they won.
Yeah.
He had so much good humor tossed into his.
Yes.
Yeah.
His
ad lib is far better than the written script.
But ever the consummate auteur or actor that's out there on the stage to give it to the audience, and that's what I enjoyed. It's like him embellishing on what is given. Now, mind you, he's reading from a script that he's been given by the other vampires. I think who was it? Was it Sam that wrote it?
Sam and Santiago who wrote the script.
So he was given these script cues, and he read it. And he already prepared ahead of time to get involved with this. And then we didn't expect to get the interplay of his just giving his feeling and just interjecting his thoughts at certain points that were off script. But I just loved his entrance, his passion, his grace right in front of the stage, explaining everything to everybody, and then literally play acting with Santiago at that point, because it was literally a setup for Claudia, Madeline, and Louis at that point. Now, they were at this point dismissed. And just to bring this up now, because I didn't see anybody mention it before, but they cut their Achilles heels.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that made me think of
they
that.
were bleeding out. Now that's kind of gruesome and everything, but this is that kind of show. This is AMC Plus. We've seen it on The Walking Dead where they had a lot of weird stuff like that, and it's very gory and bloody. But these are undead people, vampires, and you could see the pain in them when they try to walk, or as they're sitting down. On the top of that, they're being harassed mentally if they try to state anything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I guess, it's a super migraine for them when people just attack their brain to shut them up.
Yeah,
Claudia mostly, and Louis.
Yeah, it looks like they used telekinesis to kind of disorient their brains and their speech and everything.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful visual, the way they portrayed that happening.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah, it was like a shaking of the camera.
Yeah.
And their vision being lost within it, and you could see the sudden pain in them as they were doing it.
And they're vampires. I mean, how else are you going to subdue a powerful being? You know, you have to use the power of the group to hold them down. And then, you know, by cutting their ankles, they can't run away. I don't know why they don't heal as quickly as they would normally like that. But I think the vampires on this show probably heal a little bit slower than they do in the books or the movie. But yeah, and like Yeah, you have to use a lot of power to subdue creatures that powerful as it is. And poor Madeline, she's just in a stupor.
Correct.
Santiago has hypnotized her into this comatose state.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Louis and Claudia couldn't even develop the idea or ability to fly at this point to do something.
And I don't think any of them can right now that we know of.
Well,
except for Santiago and Lestat and Armand. So
correct.
Because they're old and powerful. Well, Santiago's not old, but he obviously has a powerful maker.
Yes, he does.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to give props to Sam the way he strutted out on that stage. I loved how he walked in silhouette across the catwalk, threw his jacket off because he's got this sexy little pinstripe suit on that he's got to show off to everybody, and he just owned that stage. And
he really did.
His going off script was just, you could tell the irritation on Santiago's face every single time he would go off script. He states somewhere along the way, "I'm about to commit the fifth."
Yes.
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 And we'll probably go into the laws and how they use this jury against them about these laws.
Did you notice
they have a human jury too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who are being manipulated to everybody, if you realize it throughout the episode. Yeah.
I really liked when Lestat came out on stage. It was a long time before he would even glance at Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was very telling.
Oh yeah. Because even when Santiago's like, Lestat pointed at his accuser, or not the accuser, but the perpetrator, and then Lestat's like, he's not, or I didn't point at him, I simply glanced his direction. I was like, oh shoot, it's gonna get real. What was I gonna say? Watching Lestat kind of address like everything, just kind of. Well, we'll get more into it as we go through the episode breakdown, because we pretty much begin to get some of Lestat's story. Who is the reliable narrator, Louis or Lestat? And Lestat doesn't like fools or homophobic hecklers, as we can see him go off on that German soldier, I believe it's who it is.
I think it was an American soldier.
Is it American?
I thought so too. Yeah.
Oh. And just how he pretty much goes up there and pretty much tells, like, you did not do your job. You were you abandoned your post, and then you came back after and was like, oh, I've been here the whole time. And then just, and again, I am excited because pretty much Lestat starts to kind of talk about who he was, and we kind of get a little bit of an insight. And again, like Becky said, this is through Armand. Oh, wait, maybe it was Mark who said this, but we kind of get to see a little bit of Lestat's life before Louis, and this is being told through Armand and Louis and Armand's point of view, and so we don't really know the relationship that he had with Nikki and how that played in, especially with Santiago's like, oh, you lost Nikki, or he lost himself or whatever, and then Lestat pretty much goes a lot with the help of other people, and then looks up at Armand. So I'm intrigued to see what Armand did to push Nikki over the edge.
Yeah, I love that.
And I feel like we're not going to get that.
Finally does take the stage. We get a little bit of the Vampire Lestat novel, because he's starting to tell his end of the story, and that's what happens in the second book, is that we get Lestat's point of view of the story. So we get to hear a little bit more about Nikki, and that he wasn't just some casual boyfriend of his, but he was Lestat's first love. And we see that in the animations in the background, and he does say, Nikki took his own life with some help, and you see Lestat glance up into the audience at Armand. So you know that Armand's got a little something to do with the bad blood between him and Lestat.
Yes.
I like too how he went to the man in the audience and was just like, hold my hand. And he immediately felt all of the pain that Lestat was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, the loneliness of an eternal life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to expand on what Danny was talking about,
no.
Lestat with the audience is Lestat knew how to read and manipulate his audience within that point by holding the hand, talking to that American in the audience, and getting in their minds. And we already know that a lot of like Santiago and the rest of the vampires are pretty much controlling the audience at this point. But they instigate pretty much a coup from the audience too by the end. And you don't really see as much manipulation at the end as far as mental controlling the way vampires normally do. It's more of a verbal thing and more of a communal thing where they're trying to, stir up that coup itself, kind of like humans normally do. It's like, I'm going to express anger. I've already given that thought. Everybody gravitates towards it and then they move on with it. But in the very beginning, it was more or less them controlling the humans at that point as a jury, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I felt like this whole section, even though it's being remembered through Louis and Armand's point of views, I feel this is the most sincere we've gotten of Lestat so far in the series. And when he starts saying things like, Santiago said, this was a tale of butchery, and Lestat's like, no, it's a love story. He's truly expressing how much he truly did love Louis. And I just like how it's the same story, but coming from two different points of view. Like when you have two friends and they both tell you the argument that they've had with each other, and you hear the exact same story, but from one friend, the details are different, and the other friend, they're different, and no one's the bad guy and everyone's the victim here. But you're like, I can see where these two stories intertwine and where the stories fully diverge from each other. Because that is what is coming across to me when Lestat starts telling his story, because he says, oh, Louis was hunting me. I felt him staring at me. And maybe from Lestat's point of view, like, he can read human minds. Louis didn't ever have to state it out loud. He could have read that Louis had these feelings for him, and he might have felt like Louis was coming after him the same way that Louis felt like Lestat was hunting him. It seems to, hinge on the author's point of view.
Correct.
Yeah.
I've always said this. There's always three sides to a relationship, and every points of view. Because if it's a couple, it's one side, and then you have the other side, and then in the very middle, you have the truth that people do not see. Overall.
Exactly.
That's the overguiding overall visual of it. Somebody who is unbiased and just looks at it as a total and can depict it how they want. Now, I've been in relationships with women and had that experience. I actually had one recently where she said she changed. I went back to her after, like, you're going to say almost over 10 years. And then she said she changed. Well, she didn't. And then I have my point of view, and I have changed, but I was holding distance. And it's just a point of reference, everybody. I'm not trying to open up and create, inside of Mark. I'm not Michael Rosenbaum by any means with a podcast. But I'm just stating I have my point of view. She has her point of view. And it's two completely things. But if somebody overlooked all that as a whole, as a watcher, let's say, I'm not trying to point out something from Highlander as somebody who watches from a distance and looks at something, or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like, Becky's clapping now. And,
I love Buffy.
same here. But the thing is that you have two sides, and then in the middle you have the overall truth. Now, by the end of the season, do we lose anybody, or do we move on to Lestat? Is another story completely. And I would love to see Lestat's side of things. Or does the interview end at the end of the season and move on to Lestat? We don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing that. If they extend it a little bit more and then move slowly, drift into Lestat's story and go into the book of Lestat, that would be amazing, because then we get his whole point of view and then his journey. But
I'm sorry.
No. I would be sad to see the story of Louis, Armand, Claudia, and Lestat, all that, go away right away. I would want to see what the final end is. But that's about it.
I think it would be fun for them to do a season 3, all the same, but start from Lestat, and you see it all from Lestat's point of view.
Oh, wow.
I know it's a lot. I don't. Obviously, they're not going to do that. But I was thinking today when I was finishing up the first season, I was like, how cool would it be if they did this and showed us the opposite side of the story?
Yeah.
So it's funny that you say that, because it was just announced that Interview with the Vampire Season 3 will follow Lestat as he starts a band and goes on tour. Gabrielle, Nicholas, Magnus, Marius, who must be kept. They will join Louis, Armand, Malloy, Sam, Regal, Beard, and other sexy pilgrimage across space, time, and trauma. So it looks like we are going to be getting season 3 through the point of view of Lestat, only because, as we know, that Gabrielle is Lestat's mother. Nicholas is Lestat's first lover. I believe Magnus is the person who creates Lestat. And so I feel like having that knowledge, we know that this is essentially going to be, we're going to be thrown into Lestat's point of view. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I just heard that news today too, and I'm really excited. And the next book, Roland James. Oh shoot, I forgot the showrunner's name. Terrible. Sorry, people. I know his first name's Roland, but he basically signed up to do this series because he wanted to cover the vampire Lestat. So that is what season 3 is going to cover, is the book of the vampire Lestat, which also probably mixing in some of the other stories as well.
Awesome. I'm
That's
looking
very
for that
exciting.
forward to that journey, because we've had so far 2 seasons of Louis and his story, and Lestat being involved with it, as well as Armand. So they're moving forward into the books as it seems consecutively. So they're not putting the nail in the coffin just yet, not to make a pun, but we'll get some of the things that we love and enjoy. And we speculated too that, me and Billy were like, oh, what kind of music are they going to do? Things of that nature. If they go into that, I would love this. But yeah, I look forward to what they have. I'm looking forward to season 3.
Same.
Yes. So now we get a new take on what we thought we knew about season 1. So Claudia's transformation story, the fight scene between Louis and Lestat dropping Louis. And so that is, I love this scene only because once Lestat tells the audience that it was like, even after he told Louis, like, this is forbidden, you can't turn a child, and telling him that this child is going to not be happy because they are stuck in a child's body even though they're maturing throughout the centuries, and this is going to destroy Claudia. And then you just see Claudia look over at Louis like, is he telling the truth? Like, is he saying like that you knew that that this is a life that I was going to be cursed with. And you just see Louie's like, no, I didn't know this. Like, this is a lie.
Yeah, he's saying it's all lies, but she looks at him like she doesn't believe him.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when we switch over to the interview, pretty much Louie's like, no, Lestat, I want you to use Lestat's version of Claudia's transformation because it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That to me was shocking. It seems
like these truths are like sort of coming back to him. Like he truly believed what he said the first time, but now that he like starting to review things in his mind, just like he has been all this time, his memories are starting to rearrange themselves and he's starting to get more of these truths coming through. And I thought this whole section like was just the most poignant part of the whole episode. But the first revelation of the turning of Claudia was just amazing because it's so bizarre because they're replaying that scene from season 1, but they've reshot it because it's Delaney in the bed and not Bailey. And Sam completely changes his facial features than he did from the first season. In the first season, he seemed very cold and dismissive, like, oh, I don't want to change this person. I don't even know this person. Yep. But here, he almost seems like a little bit sad and broken. Like his eyes are like, God, no, Louie, don't ask me to do this.
Yep.
And it's just very cool that they're replaying things in Louie's memory in two totally different ways. That's why I just love that the theme for this season is memory is a monster, because Louis remembered it one way as just Lestat being a jerk about it, and now he's starting to see, well, Lestat really did warn me about doing this. And oh my God, that scene where he's pulling Claudia across the floor, almost
by her leg,
into
by her foot.
Lestat, like it's like he's bringing his favorite broken toy over to Lestat and saying, please, please, please fix this for me. And it's really just there to fix his conscience.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was holding on to his humanity still at that point. And that's what Lestat actually points out, is that he would constantly feed on animals and avoid the idea of being a true vampire.
Yeah.
And that was his thoughts overall during this jury, is that Louis just lived a lot of his life as a vampire at that point of not feeding on people. He would only feed on whatever he could get during that time. And it's sad because it's literally breaking down Louis and who he truly was. And that's why Louis kind of caved in and said, use Lestat's story, because that is the truth, because it's more of him. It's an awakening. You know, he got woke to what had happened because he heard it, but he not only heard it during the trial, but years later during this interview where Armand had brought it up, and Armand is refreshing his memory based upon that, his partner in crime. And there is a lot of passion in it. And we do see that passion come out of Louis when he throws the bowl of blood and it cracks into a painting.
Yeah.
That's probably thousands, if not millions of dollars, because that's all they procure and sell. And that's how they make their money. And you could see the passion, and that's what I liked about it, because it shows their personality, their love, and who they are. And I just love the actors and how they portray it.
And that, speaking of that passion, Lestat's apology on the stage was, I mean, Sam Reed can do no wrong.
Exactly.
Every time he spoke, I just felt entranced. I felt like the audience, like I was just entranced by him and him owning up to what he did. And you could tell it genuinely hurt him that he hurt Louis. And that was so well done. And I think an also very important part of that part of the story.
Yeah, you really feel Lestat and everything.
Yeah, I loved his. I truly and sincerely felt that from from Lestat because of Sam Reed's performance. You could see the blood in his eyes starting to have the blood tears there. And, and Santiago didn't even want him to go there. He was like, oh, Louis was fine, wasn't he? And they kept telling him to say he's fine, he's fine. We've skipped a part, but yeah, since you were talking about the dropping of Louis, like his total regret for that, and saying that he didn't deserve Louis's forgiveness for that. That was a scene that I just feel like he should get an Emmy for it.
I agree.
Yeah.
It was done very well. The animation too, when they showed it, and the way Santiago explains it, he goes, "It would kill a person in a heartbeat, a regular human, but in this case, a vampire will just be able to brush it off at a certain point because it is catastrophic, but they will be able to live with that in time." The fact that I forget how many kilometers he told
2
everybody.
kilometers, which is over a mile into the sky.
Into the sky, down to the floor. Think about the impact and how it hurts. And then they have to, being immortal at that point. His immortal beloved throwing them down. Not to use a Beethoven movie title.
Well, that's where we get Claudia's outburst where she pretty much goes off on or stands up and is like, oh, it's that easy? Well, he's alive, so can't I just apologize and let bygones be bygones? It's like, why can't we just let it go? Like, if it's that easy, let me just apologize and we'll move on.
Yeah, she threw that apology right back in Lestat's face, and I thought that was beautiful. I applauded her so many times.
Oh yeah,
actually applauded her.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
While watching it, that was so good.
I missed this point too, where pretty much Daniel Malloy is pretty much done with Armand's bullshit, and he's pretty much like, oh, so you went and grabbed, or you snitched your
lover,
your new boyfriend,
to
his last boyfriend, and got front row seats the best seat in the house.
Best seat in the house. Yep.
And the way he said it was such. Danny Malloy is very good at keeping them in check.
Yes. Okay, and it's always Daniel's trying to pull the bullshit out of Louis and Armand, and also the real Rashid. And I just find it interesting. It's like he keeps poking and prodding. And it's due to his reporting aspect is what they enjoyed. But he's still grabbing the truth out of them. But he still is dead centered on the written note from Claudia's diaries. Like, he actually brought it out. Is there other pages that I'm missing that is not here that I should be brought up, or I should be able to see? Are they missing? Where could I find them? Just like with during the trial, when they use that diary as well, because they point out that Claudia used Lestat's blood to write in her diary about killing and how they were going to do it.
Yeah.
And what they did. And, and it's just amazing how, and I love the animation on how they depict it too. It reminded me too of something out of Buffy too. Becky, you'd probably, if you're a Buffy fan, you will remember when they had the shadow puppets in that one season. And you'll remember
back to the beginning.
Yes. So that's what I got out of it. And it's very creative way of doing it. And I've said this from the very beginning, as soon as we saw the Theatre de Vampire on screen on interview, it gave me those feels of the animation. And whenever they were doing that theatrically with their little troupe and how to depict and then consume upon their patrons. But I just thought it odd. It's like a lot of the truths were coming out through the animation as well as the verbal coming through in the show. And a mixture of both does a world of great because it lets your imagination go with you. They saved a lot on effects, everybody, because if they actually did that, forget it. They'd be there for 2 hours.
Yeah, the one thing that I noticed about the animation, though, is the way they depict poor Louis the whole time. I mean, they make him look like he was at the dirty the season, the
first season where he was like a cigar smoking
with cigar, dirty hair and everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they're just doing their worst to portray him as this fiend. And it's the whole setup of this fake farce of a trial. But I'm just like, they make Louis look terrible, and of course they make Lestat and even Antoinette look perfectly faultless, which we know is not the case.
Yeah, and to add on that, I found it very racist.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way the depiction of Louis in those character formats too. I was like, wow. Because
that kind of subtext went through this whole episode, I felt, because in the books, they are not of Claudia and Louis are not of people of color, but when those roles are reversed here, it does give a very strong sense of bigotry and racism to it, because they're being tried in an entire audience of white people with an entire white jury and judge and lawyers, advocates, so it definitely gave it that sense.
Yeah, they did not get a fair trial.
No, they didn't.
I agree with you, Lara.
Oh, no,
not at all.
Which leads us to the final sentencing, where Madeline decides to stay with Claudia. Louis is given banishment, of course, with the help of Armand. And then we see the demise of both Madeline and Claudia. That scene just broke me, because just seeing Claudia hold on to Madeline, because when she is given the choice to stay with the Coven or Claudia, Madeline's like, Claudia is my companion, and therefore my Coven is Claudia. And it's like, it gives Claudia this sense of like, this is what I wanted. I wanted someone to put me first. Like, and even
she found true love.
Yes.
Yeah, like she's like, finally someone puts me first, because Lestat didn't put her first. Louis never put her first. Mm-hmm. And so she finally gets that with Madeline. And so I feel like when she was holding her there at the end, till the bitter end, like she's like, this is what I wanted, and I am going to go out fighting. I'm not going to beg for my life. I'm going to be strong, and my final request is, I see all of you. Like, if there's an afterlife, I'm going to come after you. And if there isn't, I'm still going to find a way to come back and kill every single one of you. And I'm just like, that's Claudia. So she went from being this annoying little brat to being this like
strong woman.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I felt that. And I've said it from the beginning. I've hated her in the movie, in the book, and even in the show, but like, she won me over, and that's one of the main reasons why I gave this episode 20 out of 10, just because the performances all around were spectacular, but Claudia, she broke my heart. She definitely broke my heart.
It broke my heart when during those scenes, they did flashbacks with her, Lestat and Louis, and I think it was during the beatdowns and stuff like that with Louis itself. And she kept calling for Daddy Louis. It could have been during the time when they were being abducted as well. She would say Daddy Louis. And she mentioned Daddy Lestat at one point during the episode, as I remember. I could be wrong.
That was the flashback to the fight in season 1, which I don't know if you guys covered since I got cut off a little bit, but that was an amazing flashback too, because we see what happened behind those closed doors and that it wasn't all Lestat beating Louis. Louis got his licks in on Lestat too.
Yeah.
And that part where Louis goes off on Lestat is probably the scariest, one of the scariest scenes they've had in this season, where he says he's going to take his scrawny little neck and grab a butcher knife and cut off his head and feed it to the lions. And it's
and leave it in the swamp for it to be fed on. Yeah, it was the first time, and it made you feel what Daniel had heard from the guy from, I'm forgetting the name of, the Talamasca, who says it's not Armand. That one you should be afraid of. It's the other one. And then in this case, we see Louis' true rage at that point. And it makes me fear of what we will see at the end of the season if that true rage comes out. And who does it point towards? Daniel, Armand, or both Daniel and Armand, or do they all succumb? And I'm
or
curious.
Is it the Teatra that finds his fury?
Yeah, we won't know until we get to that episode. This is the penultimate episode, everybody. I'm afraid.
But I think in that scene you see where that really breaks Lestat, and that's what makes him do what he does to Louis. I mean, he had reached his breaking point, and he actually had tried to restrain himself, because he actually could have very easily killed Louis, and he tried not to.
Yeah.
And you saw the tears in Lestat's eyes as he was bringing up all this information too, which is a lot of emoting from Sam Reed as well, which was amazing. And his depiction of his recollection of all the events that happened. And I still, that actually brought a tear to my eye. That's one of the things. And my second watch, I'm like, holy crap, I'm feeling for Lestat in this. Why?
I think I cut you off, Becky. What were you going to say?
Oh, I didn't know if anybody else noticed. I thought it was really cool that in the movie, it was Madeline holding Claudia.
Yes.
And this time it was reversed. It was Claudia holding Madeline. I don't know why that touched me, but I thought that was so sweet. And I just want to touch on Danni talking about Claudia. And I wrote here in my notes that even facing death, Claudia is a firecracker. She spat on Lestat's apology to Louis, her smile before she sang, and she went out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah, I love that whole speech that she gives to Lestat. Like, you dropped him from the sky like an egg out of an airplane. And then she just gets mad at the both of them and says, just another stormy chapter in your romance. And I was just a roof shingle that flew off. And yeah, she gives it to him. She gives it to them both. And I love it. And that she doesn't go down fighting. And neither does Madeline when they ask her if she chooses, the Coven or Claudia, and she chooses Claudia and then flips off the audience.
Yes. I love that.
Loved her giving the finger.
Has anybody else noticed, did AMC give carte blanche to the show to give so many F-bombs within one episode? They
must have.
I'm like, The Walking Dead only had one allowed per episode. I counted a lot in this one, and I was shocked. But I wonder
if that's the bonus stuff we get with the AMC Plus, though. Maybe
I do not know.
Maybe
I don't
can
have
curse more.
Yeah, I have not. I don't subscribe to regular cable. I have AMC Plus. Everybody, just to give you an idea, I don't have a regular cable system, but I subscribe to AMC Plus. And when I watched it, and I watched it that Sunday in the morning, and I was like, "Oh my god, this episode's amazing! Oh my god, how many F-bombs?" And I was like, "Wow."
I have both AMC Plus and cable, and I did watch this one. I recorded it and watched it on cable, and they were the same. They were the same.
Wow.
Amount. Yeah. So that's why I was like, "Wow. Okay. Cool."
Progress, everybody. Progress.
Right.
We got the blood. We got the cursing. Well, there's a lot of sexuality, but not as much nudity, which is fine with me. I could do away with it.
I'm good with it.
Not me. Give me more.
Right?
She wants to see Sam
We
Reed.
can see more of Sam's butt. Do we have more Sam butt?
Oh, so perfect.
Next
So cool.
season, the following season.
Yes.
She is like white ass flashing somebody. But
Mark Jacobs has got a good one too. So
yeah, Mark Jacobs is a handsome man. I gotta give him that. Jacob Anderson. Sorry, I see.
Is it Mark Jacobs, the clothing designer?
Oh boy. But Jacob Anderson is a very handsome man. I love how they did it with his hair, how it was all messed, and then it's so properly coiffed at times. Oh man, so amazing. And I got to give it to the wardrobe department, the hair department between both Haley and him, and what they were able to do and conceive. The one thing that I did enjoy about, and then we're probably going to move into the final sentence of what's going on, right, Danny?
We're in it.
Okay, so in this case, with all the judgments and what had happened, and how not only was Louis charged with certain things, as well as Claudia, but Lestat as well, and Lestat has that hesitation, stating, and he just looks at them at a certain point, especially when Claudia is talking about how he was guilty as such for certain crimes as well.
Actually, it was Lestat who brought that up.
Yeah,
he
I said
that
Lestat.
they didn't. The jury or the court was not blaming Lestat for anything. They were trying to show his innocence, but Lestat says that when he turned Claudia, he broke one of the 5 laws as well, so that he should be on trial as well.
Yeah,
Santiago's like, no, you're good.
I'm the new leader of the coven at this point, so we're good. Because I want this so I could have this on my resume before the place burns down. Hold on.
Yes.
Spoilers, everybody. It's going to burn down.
Well, I mean, we already see that as Talamasca had sent over the article of the theater burnt down. So we already know that the theater burned down. We just don't know how it happens.
Yeah, because we end where we end at this point, and we see Claudia and Dust, as well as Madeline, on the stage. Santiago taking Claudia's dress out of the dust.
So, interesting story. I am listening to the audiobook right now, and I'm listening... so I'm listening to the audiobook, and in the audiobook, I don't know if I should be saying it now, but Lestat...
Want to have a little book talk at the end? Or
let's
do that.
Let's do that. Let's do that at the end.
But I found it intriguing that we get that, because it was like a stab at Claudia by Santiago taking that. Him taking literally a trophy of his conquest.
Yeah.
I took it as he was going to use it to further torture Louis,
because
Louis,
as we know, he has banishment. They put him in a coffin, put rocks on him, segregated him. They etched in who he was, probably with their finger etching into the stone.
Yeah.
And it's a possibility that was used to antagonize him, to persecute him even more while he was hidden away. And Santiago seems like the typical vindictive person that he is. You know, he's not really a person. He's undead, but who cares? But I keep bringing that up because they are human, but they are not human. But the thing is,
that's what's so great about this show, is that these are monsters. They would not think twice about killing us and making a meal of us, but we have these feelings for them because of all the monsters, created. The vampire is the closest to a human. So I think it's really great that we explore all these human emotions and human feelings through the eyes of monsters, basically.
Yeah, they still have that human quality within them, as Becky and I would probably say about Buffy the Universe. They're always the lower of all the demons because they still have a presentation of human like personalities and everything else, and are deemed the vermin of the demon world.
And a lot of them didn't even have a choice.
Exactly.
At becoming who they were, so that you also kind of feel for them at that point too.
Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoyed the idea of the whole final sentence, and that was being brought up during that whole thing. The death given, how Claudia and both Madeline and Claudia were standing up for one another. Madeline standing with Claudia, and then Claudia doing that whole and then flipping off, and during that, and then they get the light shined on them.
And when you notice when they call up Madeline to choose whether she wants to stay with Claudia or stay with the coven, Claudia nods to her. She's like, "Yeah, take life." And she chooses Claudia instead. I think maybe that's why Claudia is holding Madeline, because, well, for one, Madeline is almost like her child as far as a vampire life goes. She's just a maybe few months old fledgling, while Claudia has lived for, 40, 50 years past her mortal age.
Mm-hmm.
And, so she's holding Madeline like she's the child, and Claudia is the caring, nurturing parent.
Yeah.
And I love it when she says Claudia is her coven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
There's got to be some T-shirts from that.
Good idea.
Yes.
That and justice. #justice for Claudia.
Oh yeah.
Justice for Madeline.
Well,
yeah.
I was gonna say in the film, and even in the book, we know that Madeline is turned because she is more of a mother figure to Claudia, and that's and she wants a daughter. And so I think that's why we get that kind of switchback is in the show. Claudia is accepting that Madeline is her companion, and she's holding on to her. So the roles are reversed here, as opposed to in the book and the movie, where Madeline is protecting her child, and now we have Claudia kind of protecting her lover.
Yeah. And
companion.
I think that's kind of strange that, just because of the changes they made from the book, Claudia at 5 years old as a 5-year-old vampire obviously was sort of an aberration, because she could never, ever take care of herself. No matter how old she got, she would have to have an adult companion or some sort of familiar to take care of her for her entire life. And that's why the vampires said that she could not exist. But Claudia, even at 14, she can somewhat display as an older woman and still be able to survive on her own. So, I think the coven's charge of her being a child vampire and not able to exist in this world is pretty paper thin.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Good point.
Same here.
All right.
I like the singing at the end, though, with Claudia.
Oh, yeah. That was so defiant of her, because she's singing the song, because a lot of the people in the mortal audience are regulars. They had come to her show over and over again, and they loved her. Santiago even said, "I know she was a favorite of yours," and now they're judging against her. And even though they've been told that this is all fake and it's not real, I think they know it's real. And she starts singing to them this song that they all loved hearing her sing during her shows, which is her final FU to the entire audience.
Yeah.
And Lestat's face, I couldn't figure out, maybe y'all can help me clarify it, if it was satisfaction or just a hint of sadness when he looked at her and he was like, she'll be the last thing. He was the last thing she sees. I couldn't tell from his face exactly what he was feeling at that point.
My feeling was that he was feeling sadness at that point, because he helped create
I definitely think he had regrets. And Delaney Hales even did an interview about this, and she said that she was looking to Lestat as, her parent, the only parent that's still on the stage, just sort of pleading for his help that either can't or won't give her. And I believe in the books, Lestat eventually does feel bad about her death, but because of her age difference in the book, he knew that it was something that was inevitable. And I think something that he also brings up to Louis here, where he's like, she cannot live like this. She cannot live this mortal life trapped in a child's body. It's like Armand said, it's going to drive her insane someday. But also, I think he had a lot of admiration for Claudia. He said that she embodied his best vampiric self. So in a way, I feel like he felt he was proud of her, but also she came to him unwillingly, and he did it only to please Louis and to keep Louis. So, maybe in a way he was sad, but he also knew that it was necessary or just something that was eventually going to happen.
Yeah, he had admiration and respect for her because he helped create her. And in a sense, also, she became like in his feelings, the best parts of himself. But she only had a finite existence, regardless, based upon said situation. Yeah, I feel the same way.
Do you have any more notes?
I have no notes at all.
Okay.
My only note was about season 3. And you already mentioned that, Danny.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's perfectly awesome. I'm so excited that we got that news today.
Yeah, me too. What was that, Becky?
I was just reading. I think we covered most of mine. I do want to piggyback on what Mark said about the writing, backdrop, makeup, music, visuals, and every actor were amazing in this episode. This is why I keep watching this show, because it keeps delivering.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And then my last note is when Santiago talks about, like, he wants to violate the 5th law, in my mind, I'm like, is he stronger than Lestat? Like I assume because Lestat was a creator of the theater of vampires, he might be a little bit stronger. So, but then again, he does have the whole coven on his back or on his side, so it could be that he could use them to kill Lestat, I guess. But yeah, that was my final note.
I would love to see Santiago in a battle
Spin-off.
with Lestat. I have a feeling we won't get that, but they did square off on stage for who was the best prima donna.
That is
They
true.
sure did. They sure did.
They sure did. And I love how Santiago still kept up with the gimmick with the rope and clicking it to his back to hold him up as if he's not flying, but he truly is.
Oh yeah. Do we have any quotes?
I have a few.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lestat, when he said, "I couldn't force him to love me, so I broke him." That was deep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And you touched on it, Danny, but I'm going to give the full quote. "If there's an afterlife, I'm going to come back and effing kill you. And if there isn't an afterlife, I'm still going to find a way." And then last but not least, Lestat describing New Orleans as the humidified daughter of Paris. That had me cracking up. So that was such a good one.
That is a good one.
That is a good one. Yeah.
I had 2, and it was the one when Claudia said, so Madeline kind of wakes from her stupor for a moment and says, "Are we on trial?" And Claudia says, "It's not a trial, it's a stoning."
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And Louis says, after that, everything got a lot less fun. And yeah, that just like sucked the air out of the room. And true, the whole episode just got darker and darker from there.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
And then I just love, again, it's the delivery. All these actors deliver their lines with such perfection.
Yes.
That when Sam is up there ridiculing that American soldier who heckles him, he says, he gives out his whole story of cowardice, and then he says, "Where's the disgust now?" Oh my God.
Yes.
Well done.
Tingles that went up my spine when he said that. I'm like, oh, Lestat, you're giving me the vapors.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah, those were there were so many. I could probably list a whole bunch of Lestat lines, but that one just got me.
Well, most of mine, I said them throughout the episode here. Just Daniel Malloy just tearing Armand a new one, and then there were so many amazing parts in this. Like, it was amazing throughout the whole show.
Awesome.
Oh, and I didn't get to even point this out, but I have a feeling that Armand was integral in this whole charade. And
100%.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So many things that he, he's sitting there looking so sad and forlorn as he's in his timeout box, and Sam's standing out guarding him with the tiniest little prop scythe I've ever seen. I'm like, really?
He had the puppy eyes from
Sam,
his
the
little
one who
cage.
collects the condoms from the audience after the show, is going to be the one to guard 500-year-old Armand. Come on, guys.
And who can freeze the room, and who could make all the actors heads go down to the table and stuff. Come on, really?
Mm-hmm. I used all of my strength to save Louis. Whatever.
Yeah, and he couldn't muster any more strength to save poor Claudia. Oh no, well, if Claudia's gone, then oh no, that just leaves Louis all to me, and he can give all his attention to me.
Correct. It's like his dubious little all-time plan to have, Louis to himself. And literally Daniel kind of explains the whole ploy at the very end, which I'm waiting for next episode to be the ultimate battle at the very end to come out based upon that reason.
And we've already seen there's a little bit of a I also wonder if there might be a bit of an agreement between Lestat and Armand too, because I don't feel like Lestat was doing this just for his revenge. There's something up, and we'll see next week what it is.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think he had to have known about Lestat's across the waters.
They can talk. They can talk. So that's a good point, Lara.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Those were my quotes.
Yeah, I don't have any more. I could quote the whole movie, but or the whole show.
I do have one little section that Armand said, and this is where I went through and wrote this whole thing, so I'm glad I remembered to say it. I think this is an example of the poetry of this show. So when they're going through the rest of the trial and they're telling their story and they're up on stage and Santiago and Lestat are doing their thing, Armand said, "The mortals didn't blink. They followed the pocket watch back and forth until Santiago and Lestat had them dreaming in their seats, piranhas looking up through the tank water, waiting for the chum to be dropped."
Ooh.
Oof. So poetic.
Yeah. I'm telling you, this episode was very well, because they made us feel you got your perception of who Lestat got altered. Claudia's perception got altered. Everything just kind of just changed, and it made you feel, and that's what I love about this show and what keeps me coming back.
Awesome. Yeah, like I said earlier, I have no more quotes. I think we're all done with notes, and I guess we should move on to feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'll read the short, quick one from Gloria Leteri Hernan. Sorry if I messed that up, Gloria. So excited about this episode tomorrow. I hope she liked it.
Becky, do you want to handle Alma's?
Where is that?
Did you scroll down to the bottom, or towards the bottom of the?
Sorry, hang on.
No, you're
I'm
good.
new, guys. Bear with me.
It's okay. You're good.
Okay. Alma Contreras says, "Claudia, no!" Crying emoji. I feel you, girl. I was left completely speechless at the end of this episode, and I'm even more mad at Armand with his "I could not prevent it." I love this. I'm with you, Alma. I call complete Can you curse on here?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Okay, I call complete bullshit. You mean to tell me all that power and he could do nothing but one feeble attempt at controlling everyone into saying banishment for Louis' case? He wanted Claudia dead just as much as Santiago and Lestat did. Then and only then could he have Louis to himself. Ooh, I'm so mad at Armand for letting this all go down. I sure hope Louis opens his eyes by the end of the season and finishes Armand once and for all. Amen. Crying face, emoji face. What an episode. Alma, I feel you.
Yes.
Yes. I feel the same way.
I second that emotion.
I second that emotion. All right, I don't want to sing.
I'm glad you sang, not me. I got it.
First thing came to my head. All right. Well, we have a couple of voicemails, and we're going to start off. We had Billy on last week, but he did send in some voicemail about this particular episode. So let's hear it now.
Hey, it's Billy. So this episode, wow. I had to watch it twice because the first viewing was very, very emotional. I've never actually cried while watching television before. I mean, I've related deeply to characters in the past, whether it be through books or movies and stuff like that, but I've never actually wept while watching TV. So that's a big deal. And Sam Reed is masterful in his emotional displays on screen. I mean, the grief Lestat's character shows for Louis and his regret for how he and Louis treated each other, it was real. It was believable. I could not see that and not think, oh, that's just acting. That seemed real to me. But there's a lot of things that happened in that episode that I'm probably going to have to watch the episode a third time just to fully understand what I saw. But the thing that kind of stuck out to me most was how unreliable Louis' memory is. And though they're trying so hard to portray Lestat as this sort of monster, which I am so glad to see him back on the screen as a character and not a memory. I'm so glad to see Lestat. But I always think, like, after watching it, I keep thinking about the first season and everything that led up to their departure to Europe. And this episode where basically Louis admits that he probably saw the events the wrong way. And he even tells Daniel, for the sake of the book, Lestat's version is the right version. And it's kind of harks back to what we talked about on the last episode of the podcast, in which I declared that it's likely that the next season's going to be Lestat's point of view on everything. I mean, as the books follow, just because it just seems that Louis' memory on things and his recollections are inconsistent and unreliable. But one scene that really got my attention was when he's begging Lestat to turn Claudia into a vampire, and he's weeping, and he's holding Claudia like a doll. Like, in my head, it made me think of a child holding their broken toy to their parent and asking them to fix it. And he's just glaring down at Louis like, what are you talking about? I've just told you what will happen. And that's when Louis kind of has the recollection that, oh my gosh, he did tell me what was going to happen. He did warn me that if I did this, she would suffer. And even Claudia will not believe it. She will not believe it. She's firmly set in her place in this whole drama. Her ire is stubborn and it will not move. And so this episode was it was amazing. And I probably will watch it a third time. But there was so much that happened in this episode, so much to unpack. So I'll be looking forward to hearing what it gets talked about this week. And I also am I knew this would happen because there's no version of the story in which she doesn't do this. But Madeline's chance at reprieve, that is new. That is new, and I like that. I like that they gave her a chance to continue on. Because I think of all the short-lived vampires in the series, Madeline was the most interesting. But she gets a choice of reprieve, and she chooses to die with Claudia. And then that heartbreaking scene where the sun obliterates them, and she starts singing and screaming. And the thing she does, the sort of her last, FU to the world and Lestat, is she looks at Lestat as she's turning into ash, and it horrifies him. It horrifies him that he's watching this happen, and it kind of says a few things about his character, which is that he's not cruel, vindictive, and a proper fiend, yes, but he's not an actual monster. And so, and then also, they mentioned that Madeline has the chance to reprieve because she wasn't educated in this stuff. And then I kept thinking, well, wouldn't that be the same for Louie and Claudia? But then during one of the flashbacks, Lestat makes a mention to the Great Laws, and I'm like, I guess Lestat did give Louis part of an education on vampire etiquette and vampire decorum, which I did not remember happening. So that was really interesting. I'm going to have to go back to season 1 and look it over again just to see if that part is just one of the weird black dots in Louis' memory, or if it's just something I didn't pay attention to when I was watching the earlier season. But
that was it. That's all I got.
Billy, I think, went into my head and stole one of my thoughts there, because he said the same thing about Claudia looking like a little broken doll.
Yeah. And he also mentioned something I wanted to bring up earlier, but I forgot about Lestat explaining that to Louis and about the laws and everything. So Louis was a little bit educated at a certain point, but obviously was at a passionate point when turning Claudia. So obviously Louis didn't care because his passions were overtaking him, because he was still holding on to his humanity and needed this because of a caring of another person, or a human, or somebody who was dying at that point and wanting to care for them. So yeah, Billy, I agree. Yeah, it's hard. As I get older, I do cry on TV shows and movies at times. And I don't know, it's me because of what the actors or the story is telling. Anytime I hear something about a father or a dad moment, I get upset because I reflect on my dad, things of that nature. Same thing with a grandpa, a relative, or anything. But it's all about being human. And it is a human thing, but I'm glad that you're able to embrace your feelings just like I do at times. And I got yelled at once by somebody who I was dating going, how could you why would you cry? And I'm like, really? You're not human. And obviously they have not grown with their feelings. So I do embrace the idea of what the actors are projecting, and it does touch me at times. But yeah, it was an amazing show, and I can understand how you felt and how passionate you felt about the episode. And I do suggest you highly watch it again, because I will be watching it again before I watch the finale of the season. And I will probably be there, with a tissue and cleaning up some tears. But yeah, it was a thank you, and thank you for being on last week, and we'll be talking to you on the finale episode 2 next week.
Yeah. And just piggybacking off of what you just said, I think what we end up seeing is, through the first season, we see everything through Louis' point of view. So you're right. In that moment of passion, nothing else matters.
Reason goes out the window.
Yeah, you can tell me you can tell me killing is bad, but if I'm in the middle of like that passion, of course it's going to happen, and you're going to ignore any advice being given. So I don't think we see that in the first season, because he blocked that out. He was just begging to have Claudia. And so now that we seeing everything through Lestat's point of view, even though it's being told through Armand and Louie, he's realizing like, hindsight is 20/20. Like, now I see that you did tell me that this was going to be Claudia's life, and I fucked up by asking you to give the dark gift to Claudia. And so I feel like we don't see that in the first season. We're seeing it now because Lestat is telling his version of everything. And so I probably will be watching the first season just to make sure that I'm on the right path with that. But I believe that that's how it's being portrayed.
Awesome. All right. Well, we got one more voicemail, ladies and gentlemen. And that will be from our friend Sam.
Yay, Sam.
So I'll play that right now.
Hi, everyone. How are we doing post Claudia's death? Whew, I watched it today and had to take a little bit of a break because I was crying for Claudia, which is a good thing. I mean, the show made me feel, so it's just this episode was everything I wanted and didn't want, and it was amazing. And I think they outdid the movie with this death scene and this farce of a trial that Claudia correctly said was a stoning, and Delaney Hales, whew, my goodness, she is just such an incredible actress. I wonder if we're going to see her in future seasons as the hallucination of Louis or something. I'm really excited for her to go forth on other projects. I cannot wait to see what that talented actress does. I'm on board. I'm a fan for life. She's amazing. And man, Sam Reed, he perfectly embodies why fans of the book and the movie and the TV show like myself are so drawn to the character of Lestat. Like, this was the episode that not only brought in his charisma, his presence of this character, and really the humanity of him. Like, I liked him in the book Interview with the Vampire. I fell in love with his character in the book The Vampire Lestat. And you see why in this episode. You see that there's more humanity to this character than perhaps other characters allow him to have. And it's so interesting. Like, it brings forth more of what I always kind of suspected is Louis a little bit more toxic than we first saw in season 1. And that's true in the books too. Like, I mean, he's not this innocent bystander in this. So it, they're both Louis and Lestat are highly toxic people, and for some reason their relationship just works. Like, they don't do well with other people, as we see. Like, there's collateral damage when they try to make it work with other people. And it's just, they just work together because they're both highly toxic. And just seeing Sam Reed's version of this was just so incredible. I'm like, this is the character. This is the character that I'm always so drawn to, is the complexity. And he's not a good person. Like, he's not a good vampire. And at the same time, he's not as evil as other people make him out to be. Like, I love the character of Lestat. I think he's awesome. I would never date Lestat. As attractive as Sam Reed is, he's just a rough character. And at the same time, he pulls you in and is so interesting. And Claudia's defiance in this episode was really what helped to make it bearable for me. And it's just, she was never broken by these people, and it was amazing and heartbreaking. And I am sus. I continue to think this was Armand. Maybe it wasn't Armand's idea, but he definitely went along with it. There's no way this incredibly powerful vampire was just stuck in the corner by frickin' Sam. Please, come on. I immediately called BS when he said I was stuck or death. Definitely, I think it's going to come out pretty soon that he was complicit, if not organizing this. And I think that's also why Lestat probably didn't do anything. He's like, well, I mean, this 500-year-old vampire is going to stop me if I try to stop any of it. And I think Lestat, regretted it when Claudia died. I don't think he was that torn beforehand. So I just thought it was amazing. And oh my gosh, that final scene where they just pick up her dress out of the ashes to use because she is replaceable to this Théâtre des Vampires. What do you guys think was going on through Lestat's mind in the end scene?
Yeah, I think we covered that a little bit, like what we felt Lestat was feeling. So,
yeah.
One thing I know, the one thing about Claudia's dress when they pick it up off the floor, that was the dress that Madeline made for her. So, that was the gift that Madeline had given her. But also, and I think I heard this I like to credit my references. If you watch YouTube, there is an incredibly encyclopedically knowledgeable YouTuber called Maven of the Ever. Oh, no, I can't. I watch her all the time, but I forgot. I'll figure it out. Maybe we can put it in the show notes. But she is incredible. She knows so much, and she says that in previous times in Louisiana, children were dressed in yellow if like their funeral attire was yellow for some reason. That was the custom. And in the book, Claudia is wearing a yellow dress when she dies, and that is probably because Anne Rice is a native of Louisiana. So so that was sort of symbolic of Claudia's death, that yellow dress.
That's cool.
Interesting.
Well, and that was what I was going to say, is that I'm listening to the book, and when Armand frees Louie, he confronts Lestat, and Lestat's actually holding that yellow dress and is crying for Claudia. So,
and her name is Maven of the Eventide. She's amazing. Check her out.
Awesome.
Yes.
I had to laugh too with what Sam was saying, but also agree about Louis and Lestat's relationship and how they are and how they are together over the course of a century, years, or whatever it is. They're Batman and Joker. They're Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty, but more intimate. And they can't live without each other, and that's how toxic their relationship is. They feed each off of each other at that point. And I didn't really think about it until I heard Sam speaking of it. So I think that's very interesting. I'm not saying that, I could see Louis going out there as Batman. Yeah. But
like Sam said, I don't think we'd ever want to be a part of a relationship like this. But as far as drama goes, I mean, why do people watch soap operas? Why did people back in the 80s watch like Dynasty and Dallas? Because we loved the drama, and we loved the toxicity and the anxiety and the passion that those kind of characters brought to the show. So as far as drama and entertainment, perfect.
It was perfect. And like I said, this is a dramatic show filled with all the elements that we all do enjoy when it's themed with vampires, fantasy, horror mixed in with reality, everything that is now current in this current world as far as sexuality and was everybody of different races and everything. And I just love how it culminated and gives us a great story. Now, for all those haters, you could turn the channel or not watch it. My feeling is I'm enjoying it and I love it. So
that's awesome.
But that's my feeling about that with the show. But I love that you sent that in, Sam. And it's so funny how we have Becky here, but you would have been another person we would have had on. But all you had to do was say something. But I know you're very busy, and you've been on Still Slaying, the Buffyverse podcast, a bunch of times, and I love your insights on that too. But you have an open seat if you ever want to. You just let us know.
And now we know we get in season 3, so
yeah, awesome, cool.
Got a whole new season for you to show up and just chat here with us.
Yes,
it's a lot of fun.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, that wraps up things for this episode. If you would like to leave us some feedback or just say hi, you can email us or voice message at talk@podcastica.com.
And if you head to podcastica.com, there's a handy voice message link. Check us out on social media like Facebook, facebook.com/Podcastica. We are on Twitter @Podcastica, or on Instagram @HousePodcastica. And while you're there, if you haven't already, check out the other podcasts on the Podcastica network. Like, I already mentioned one, Still Slaying, which is a Buffyverse podcast, which I love that Penny and Kara do. They've had Sam on. They've had multiple people on. They had Jason Gabassi. They had me. They had Steve Brown, who's also my co-host on Panels to Pixels podcast. They've had numerous amounts, and I love it.
I hope to be one day.
All you have to do is, are you part of the Patreon, Becky?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, get involved with that, and if anything, I will give word to Penny because she loves her friends who love Buffy. Have you sent in feedback?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
I'm the one that's got like the 1 page of notes that they're like, oh Lord.
Awesome. Well, to be a Patreon, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/Jason Gabassi and join in on the fun, because that's how literally I became a podcaster myself. I was influenced by Jason. I learned it from another person, Ben Beck, who brought me on, and that's how I created Panels to Pixels podcast. That's how I met Lara. That's how I met Danni. So we all met each other through this one strong community, which is through Podcastica and Jason's Patreon. So patreon.com/Jason Gabassi. And with that, you'll get filled with everything that the Podcastica network will have. Lara, Danni, do you have, or even Becky, do you have a specific podcast other than what I have mentioned? I know there's a slew of others, but we should recommend others. There are new ones out there, or ones that are coming back recently.
There's a new one, and I have to look it up real quick. I believe the name of it is Rip It Up, and it's with Lucy, who is Jason's partner and co-host on, not partner, but co-host on Cast of Us, and her partner, Peter, are doing a podcast on The Bear, which I haven't been able to watch yet. But the twist on this is that they're also going to be cooking each episode as well. And I'm a foodie. I love a good cooking show. So I actually listened to the first episode, but I skipped past all the bear talk because I haven't been able to watch the series yet, and just listened to their cooking talk. And it was lots of fun. So I highly recommend that new one.
That's a good one. I've listened to that too. It was very interesting. They're so cute. I'm all about Jason and Lucy with the Walking Dead rewatch right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Danni?
I haven't had time to listen to any podcast. I know that I'm supposed to be watching Yellow Jackets, so that way I can listen to the companion guide of... and I haven't had time.
You got a lot of homework to do, Danni. Come on.
I know.
Get with it.
Well, I mean, we're going to end up with last episode, so we'll see.
Okay. Well, to add on to that, this is a collaboration podcast with Adrenaline Cinema Podcast and Podcastica as we put this out, just to keep you Adrenalheads occupied and knowing what's going on. After we finish Interview with the Vampire, which will have its final episode, we're going to go back to regular format, everybody. We're going to go back to the action, adventure, fantasy, suspense, and thriller films that you all love. Jamie and I will be back with a Friday the 13th film. I'm looking to do Bloodsport, Demolition Man, a whole bunch of movies that I'm looking forward to doing with other people that you can find on piratecoreentertainment.com, as well as Panels to Pixels podcast, which we're continuing our coverage with Dark Matter, which Steve and I are going to just do 3 episodes. By the time you get this, I'll be in the process of recording with Steve to do the last 3 episodes, which would be 7, 8, and 9 of Dark Matter. And then we're going to move right into our overall ideas, because the boys happen upon us during that time, and I love the boys, and I know everybody else does, but we're going to do probably the first 4 or 5 episodes in a lump sum of overall satisfaction, greatest moments, things that we love, and then we just do that, and then obviously we're going to move into Snowpiercer, which is coming out in July, so keep that in mind. So Steve, Kat, myself, whoever wanted to come on to join us into the last season of Snowpiercer. And if you haven't caught up, go back. It's on AMC Plus, everybody. Catch up.
And it's good.
It's good. So we're going to continue on with that. So I've been podcasting hell, doing at least 3 to 4 episode podcasts a week, and I'm a regular working schmo. And I do this as a passion of love and have fun with it. So I'm glad that you guys keep up with me and deal with my editing and having to deal with certain lateness of episodes, because honestly, your love and listening, and I see the downloads, and thank you very much for that. As you all know, go to PowerCoreEntertainment.com for Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. You could go to Panels to Pixels Podcast on Facebook and just follow us there. Send in feedback if you will, or just follow us and just follow along. And Fantasy Picks Movie Edition when it comes back in September. But you'll be hearing a lot more in the coming months, and I will be still continuously in podcasting hell, but I also will get to be seeing Deadpool Wolverine. So anyhow, let's continue on with this particular podcast and all the promo plugs. Danny, what do we have coming up?
Next week, we are covering Season 2, Episode 8, the finale.
And I found the title. It is called "And That's the End of It. There's Nothing Else."
That's all, folks.
Sad face. I'm happy and sad at the same time, because we get to see the conclusion of this season, and we know it's going to be amazing. So.
Yeah.
I'm happy and sad because I'm excited to see the last finale, and I'm sad because I'm not going to be here. So I'm going to have to wait a little bit before I can see it. We're going on vacation.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to equal it out. You know, we got Danny, you got Billy.
Yeah.
You got me. Becky, do you want to come back?
Oh, please. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's a done deal. All right.
Yay.
All right. Everybody will have Becky back for the season finale with Billy, Danny, and myself. So check that out. So I think that wraps it up, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I'm Danny.
I'm Lara.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Becky. And this was the Vamp Cast. Thanks for
listening.
listening.
Yay.
So we want to do
and
a
now we
quick
can move
book
on
talk.
to what? Yeah, we can move on to book talk. Yay!
Have you read the books, Becky?
When I read the first one when I was like 13 years old, so I have little to no memory of it whatsoever.
Okay.
That was a long time ago.
Well, I think if we did any book talk, we'd just do the first couple anyhow. We don't want to go too far in the series because we don't want to reveal too much stuff. Plus, I've only gotten through the third book myself.
Yeah, I don't know why I wanted to listen to just this part of the book where the trial, because I don't remember the trial, and they don't really do a trial like they do in the show. It's pretty fast paced. It's like, it's not like they don't put on the show. It's fairly just, you know, they get kidnapped. Claudia actually escapes when they get kidnapped because Louie pretty much blocks the door, and Claudia escapes. But somehow once Louie and them get taken, Louie is like calling out for Armand. It's like, Armand, come on, like, help us out. And then he starts to believe that he is like, that Armand is just in somewhere like he's gonna come and save them, and he's gonna protect them and everything. And when he is saved, pretty much Claudia has pretty much passed away, and he sees Lestat, and Lestat is like crying over the dress. But yeah, that's pretty much the only part of the book that I was interested in. So
yeah, and I believe in the book, in the interview with the vampire book, Lestat is still pretty damaged from their attempted murder of him. He's still like very weak. He's looking pretty zombified and everything, and he can't, like, he doesn't have the strength that we see Lestat in this episode have, you know. And there's a reason that he came to Paris, but I think that might be good for next week's talk that Billy can discuss with you guys. And my wondering for if maybe Lestat and Armand had an agreement between them.
Oh, I gotta go pick up the book and read it now. I thought it was last week listening, and then I was like, because you just forget. So I think I should pick it back up. Maybe I'll do that for some summer reading.
Yeah, I think it'll be great that Billy will be here because he will be your book expert. I reread Interview with the Vampire like you, Becky. I read it when I was 12 or 13, and it kind of went over my head, so I didn't pay much attention to it, even though I loved vampires back then. But I just recently picked it up after the first season because I'm like, I'm going to reread this book. So I reread The Vampire Lestat, and then immediately went on to, I read Interview with the Vampire, then I immediately went on to The Vampire Lestat, and I am just now finishing up the last chapter of Queen of the Damned.
I saw the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot that they left out.
Queen of the Damned is your favorite?
Yes. So
really,
so this is the thing. When I watched Interview with the Vampire, I don't know, between 94 and 98, 99 or whenever Queen of the Damned came out. When I watched the Interview with the Vampire, I was like, yeah, this is not for me, and turned it off like within 15-20 minutes of the, like, in the movie. And then when I went to go see Queen of the Damned, I did not know that this was part of a book series, that it was the Vampire Chronicles, that Lestat was part of the Interview with the Vampire. So goth me in high school went to go see this Queen of the Damned, and I was like, yeah, I love the music, I love everything, I fell in love with Lestat and the character and the actor and all this other stuff. And then years later, when Billy and I were dating, sorry, my cat wants attention, can't go over there. When me and Billy got together, he introduced me to the Anne Rice book series, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is actually like connected. So then I watched Interview with the Vampire, had better understanding of what it was, liked the movie, well, appreciated it, I should say. I still like Queen of the Damned, even though it took a left turn from the books and has nothing to do with the books. Bless you, Kit. My cat just sneezed. Sorry. My cat wants all the attention now.
They always do. They're so fun.
But yeah, so that's pretty much that. Yeah, Billy was the one who introduced me to the book series and why I fell in love with the Anne Rice series. So yeah.
Well, I think that was all for the book part, just a small part, and you guys can cover a lot more next week.
Yeah, yes. And as you listeners know, I don't read. I read comic books.
When do you have time?
No, I know.
You're just editing podcasts all day.
Yeah, exactly, right. Or listening to people's podcasts. No, I read comic books. I do read books. I just never read the overall interview series. I just love and adore the cinematic and TV versions of them. And over the course of time, I've listened to a little bit of the audio versions of Anne Rice's books over time. I should go back to it, but I got to find the time, as Lara said. So other than that, if you have the time, go read the books, or if not, listen to the audiobooks and
That's
let
what
us
I'm
know.
doing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing because I don't have time to read anymore. But at work, I can put my AirPods in and listen to the audiobooks. And I know a lot of people say that that's not reading, but I consider it reading.
I still consider it
it
reading.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Who's the voice? Do you like the person who narrates it?
yeah. At first, I was kind of about it, but it's fine. I'm still willing to listen to it. It's fine.
Well, maybe we should get a petition going to get somebody to cast an audiobook version of this with actors' renditions of these
If
actors.
Sam
again.
Reed would do an audio book of the Vampire Lestat, I think I would just I think I'd go to sleep to that book every night.
He could read the phone book.
He has a soothing voice. He does.
Thing ever.
In the voice of Lestat, not his Australian accent, but
yeah, exactly.
I like the Australian.
Either one. We can have Australian version or Lestat version.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
That works.
So
yeah, either one is good.
Yeah, a lot of listeners, as you know, I did Dead Boy Detectives and Sandman Cast for Podcastica. They had a Sandman audio version of the
It's an
series.
audio drama. It's great.
It's an audio drama and it's amazing. I highly recommend it. But that was the reason that it spawned in my head. If they actually got some actors that were prominent and could actually do this.
I mean, it had like James McAvoy, it had David Tennant, it had Michael Sheen, like huge actors doing the voices.
Wow.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. And then maybe you guys could petition AMC to doing something, a requisition that and be something avant-garde.
They could put that on their night market.
Yes.
I want to play this little audio clip for you guys because this is actually Lestat talking about Claudia. And it's part of the...
I cannot say even now that I regret Claudia, that I wish I had never seen her, nor held her, nor whispered secrets to her. Claudia was my dark child, my love, evil of my evil.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That seems like how
that's from the book?
That's from the audiobook. Yeah.
That's from the audiobook, yeah. And that's Lestat pretty much saying, like, I don't regret Claudia. Claudia was my child, you know?
His perfectly vampiric and evil child.
Yeah.
All right. I think that about covers book talk and this overall episode. I want to thank all of you who kept listening that didn't mind to be spoiled about the book talk. But we look forward to talking to you again next week when we come to the finale of season 2 of Interview with the Vampire. Until then, thank you and thanks for listening.
And thanks for listening.
Thank you all. Have a great night or day,
Becky.
whatever time.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Lara. Have a good vacation.
All right.